Hello again and welcome to another Mordian Glory Warhammer 40k video. In today's episode we shall be casting our ever critical eye over another Imperial Guard 10th edition datasheet. And once again we shall be delving into the murky depths of Forge World. And today's unit is loud and proud. It is big and bombastic. I am, of course, talking about the Colossus Bombard. You know what? Without further ado, let's not mess about. Let's main gun range and dive right into today's episode. As is tradition, let us begin with a brief overview of what the hell the Colossus actually is. To put it bluntly, the Colossus is a big gun. A very big gun. It is the ultimate Chode cannon of the Imperium. You thought that a Demolisher cannon was stubby yet powerful. Ha 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 ha. That is just peanuts to the Colossus. It fires one of the largest shells fielded by the Imperial Guard, and it is a bunker buster. The idea is that if you've got a fortification and no matter how many basilisks and manticores you launch that thing, it's just not going down, you roll out the Colossus. It's an ancient weapon. It's a relic of a previous time, as so many things are in the Guard, and they just bring it out and they just yeet this shell at the wall, and the wall comes down. The bunker gets cored. Nothing is left but a smoking crater. So if you want the ultimate in fortification destroying firepower, then look no further than the Colossus. Well, at least that's what they say in the fluff. But how about the crunch? Let's take a look at the datasheet. The first thing to point out is the Colossus is a vehicle-based artillery system. It's not like the Medusa carriage or the Earthshaker carriage like other artillery you can get from Forge World. No, this is very much in the same vein as your Basilisks, your Manticores, your Wyverns. It's a vehicle-mounted artillery piece. This comes with a number of advantages. Notably, it is faster and it is more durable. It's rocking a movement value of 10 inches, which is actually pretty important. It will allow it to redeploy where it needs to deliver its firepower, and we'll get into that a little bit more later on. A little bit of foreshadowing there for you. It's also one of the more durable artillery pieces. It's toughness 10 with 11 wounds, which kind of puts it in a similar place to the Manticore, but the big difference is it's got a mighty 2+ armor save. This is a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. And again, it's important because unlike a lot of artillery pieces, the Colossus is going to be relying upon its defensive stat line to keep it safe. It's also got a leadership value of 7+, standard issue for the Guard, and an OC of 3, again, standard issue for a vehicle of this size. In terms of its unit composition and war gear options, the Colossus comes as a unit of 1, so it's not like a Sentinel where you can take squadrons of them. Nope, it's one single unit. The model is equipped with a Colossus Siege Mortar and armoured tracks. You can equip this model with a Hunter Killer Missile, and you can also give it a Heavy Stubber or a Storm Bolter. Note that the Colossus does not have a whole Heavy Bolter or Heavy Flamer. It simply does not have that weapon. So if you want to have something more than just the Siege Mortar, if you want to have a little bit of extra DACA, you're going to need to model it with a Heavy Stubber or Storm Bolter, and hell, you might as well shove the Hunter Killer Missile on there. It's free as well. Very quick side note, because I have mentioned this a lot in other unit reviews. If you're not sure about the Heavy Stubber or Storm Bolter, go for the Heavy Stubber. For as long as I can remember, it's basically been the better choice. It's got the better range, it's got the better rate of firepower, and in 10th edition, it's now Rapid Fire 3, so it even beats the Storm Bolter at its game, which was being Rapid Fire. So go for the Heavy Stubber every single time on pretty much any vehicle that can take it. The Storm Bolter, you should only really take it if you've got no other choice. Now, I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail on the accoutrement, the Hunter Killer Missile, the Heavy Stubber, the Storm Bolter. They are all exactly the same as you can find everywhere else in the Guard motor pool. The one thing to note is the armored tracks. The Colossus gets 6 attacks at strength 7. That kind of puts it in line with the Lehman Russ. Most guard vehicles only have like 3 attacks. So this thing actually does have 6 attacks, which it shouldn't come up. But if it does, don't forget it. Because getting 6 attacks in combat might allow you to run over that one Gretchen that's tagging you in melee and giving you a bad time. With all of the side bits covered off, let's get to the main reason why you're here, which is, of course, the Colossus Siege Mortar. This thing has a 120-inch range. It only has D6 attacks, but it does a blast, which helps compensate for it in many ways. It's got ballistic skill of 4+, but it's not heavy. So if you stay still, it doesn't go up to a 3+. This vehicle is going to need take aim if you want to hit it on 3s. It's strength 6, AP -1, D6 plus 2 damage. That's a kind of a weird profile. The strength 6 doesn't make it overly powerful, kind of indicates you might want to be putting it towards infantry, especially with the random number of shots as well. So you want the strength 6 and the blast to help make this thing good at just smashing through infantry. AP -1 is okay, but anything in cover will essentially negate that. But it looks like an anti-infantry weapon, and then it says D6 plus 2 wounds, which is strange. That damage, it's anti-infantry, it's doing lots and lots of multiple damage. What's the why? Well, it comes down to the fact that the Colossus Siege Mortar has devastating wounds. It has dev wounds. This means that you can reliably launch it into infantry, and between blast and strength, you'll splat them. But it also means that if it comes up against vehicles, you've got devastating wounds, which will allow you to, with that D6 plus 2, tear seriously big chunks out of any monster or vehicle that you're going to come across. In fact, on a successful devastating wound, the Colossus is putting out between 5 and 6 wounds. That makes it one of the most punchy artillery pieces that we have. Means it does reliably more damage than Manticores, which do 3 wounds a pop, and Basilisks, which only do 2 wounds a pop. So it is deceptively very, very potent. Attention, guardsmen! This is an announcement by the Departamento Militarum. Element Games is an official sponsor of the Mordianglory channel. They offer up to 20% off Warhammer 40k and 10% off bolt action and other game systems. Use the link down in the description to save money and support the channel. Anyone not using the link will be referred to the local commissariat. Also, don't forget that if you use referral code TIM3921, then you will receive double store credit, saving even more money on your future purchases. That's all for now. Format! This is also reinforced by the Colossus's ability, which is tracking target. Each time this model is selected to shoot, provided it remains stationary this turn, its Colossus Siege Mortar has the Anti-Monster 5+ and Anti-Vehicle 5+ abilities while resolving those attacks. On paper, this ability is really good. It massively boosts the reliability of those devastating wounds. If you do the math hammer on it, the Colossus Siege Mortar on average is going to get 4 attacks. If you take aim on it, it's going to be hitting on 3s. It should get 3 hits from those 4 attacks. And so with Anti-Monster, Anti-Vehicle 5+, statistically, one of those 3 hits is going to wound on a 5 or a 6. And then that means you get, boom, dev wounds through. And so in an ideal world, the Colossus is going to be able to, every turn against a vehicle, smack down 5 or 6 dev wounds, which is pretty bloody good. However, you may have noticed that I said on paper this works well. Unfortunately, reality is calling, and there is a huge fly in the ointment with the Colossus. Despite every indication, despite the fact it looks like a goddamn artillery piece, despite the fact that GW, when they were correcting the points, updating the points in the Munitorum field manual, increased the points of this model like it was an artillery piece, it does not have indirect fire. I have no idea why it can't fire indirectly. It clearly should be able to, but like the Malleus rocket launcher for the FOB, what it looks like doesn't translate to what it actually does. This means that the Colossus Bombard will need to have a direct line of sight like a Lehman Russ, like a lot of your other vehicles, to be able to see and shoot the enemy. This makes it much harder to use, and it kind of goes back to what I was hinting at before when I was going through its stat line. This is why having a movement value of 10 inches actually matters on this thing, because it's going to have to be able to move to see its opponents. This is why having that better defensive stat line like a 2+ save actually matters, because this thing is not only going to be able to launch shells at people, but it needs to be able to take a punch in return. The big issue is the fact that it doesn't have indirect fire, means that its tracking target ability is a lot less worthwhile. When playing on most competitive boards, there will be a lot of a line of sight blocking terrain. You're going to have L-shaped ruins, you're going to have big squares but you just can't see through. It's going to be difficult. And so I tend to find when I'm playing in a tournament, or I'm playing on even in most casual boards, 40k, that I have to move my units every turn if I want to be able to see stuff. I have to move round, see something to shoot it, and then normally I'll destroy that unit, and then in return my opponent will move round, shoot, destroy my unit. It's this constant game of back and forth, punch and counter punch. But what I'm saying is unless it's artillery, I need to move and shoot. But if I'm moving, I don't get the benefit of tracking target. That specifically says I need to remain stationary this turn. And unfortunately, it only gets worse. Because I mentioned earlier that GW updated its points costs. Well, they treated it like it was an artillery piece, like it had indirect fire. And so it went up to an eye-watering 160 points. Now, if it had indirect fire, that would make it the most expensive artillery piece the Guard can take, outside of things like the Praetor, the most expensive normal-sized artillery piece. If you're going to be the most expensive, you should be the best. But the fact that it costs the most and actually isn't that good, because it hasn't got a reliable number of shots when you're shooting at its intended target, which is monsters and vehicles, and it can't fire indirect, and it doesn't have heavy, so it's reliant upon take aim. It's just not great. So it's not a terrible unit. Let me be clear. I don't want people just throwing their Colossus against the wall or in the bin. No. 160 points does make it one of the cheaper direct damage units. I mean, that puts it in line with like a Lehman Russ Eradicator or Lehman Russ Vanquisher, and it's probably better than those two, right? But unfortunately, being better than like an Eradicator and a Vanquisher is like meh. If you're going to take a direct damage unit, you might as well spend 20 points more and get yourself something like a Lehman Russ Exterminator. You might as well spend a bit more points and get a tough unit that comes with lots of extra weapons that has reliable damage output and number of shots. So in summary, the Colossus has a lot going for it, but it needs to be fixed. It needs indirect fire, and it needs to have like D6+1 or D6+2 shots, and it needs to have heavy added. If it has those things added, it's worth 160 points. If it doesn't have those things added, I think it needs to come down to its original price point. If you are thinking of taking a Colossus, it's one of those units that kind of falls into the category of not great, it's not terrible. It's 3.6. You can put one in your list and you're not feeling like you're totally handicapping yourself. You're not completely wasting your points. But there are better options. It's decidedly lower mid-tier in my opinion. But of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. How would you fix the Colossus, and how would you use it in its current state? If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian Glory Hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, and they have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a big shout out to Bon Vert, Mad Larkin, Marcus Roberts, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Varney. Thank you guys so much. Your incredible generosity is a massive part of how I'm able to do Mordian Glory full time, and it is a big driving force behind the channel. But I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.